this is precisely what brought me on the path when I would see somebody suffer, but especially when somebody would leave the body. And as a doctor, I would have that question. I would ask, I mean, the first time I saw it, you can read about things, but when it happens, fortunately, I think I had enough karma to realize something very sacred is happening. I had no understanding. The body was stopped moving, pulse, blood pressure, nothing. But there was as if the atmosphere over there would change. And I would ask naturally those who were next to me, my professors, colleagues, so what happened over here? And they said, what happened? Well, and then as I would probe further, they would say, you're thinking too much, just go for a walk, take a cup of tea and such. But I realized that they were dismissing something which everybody would do well to actually reflect upon. And as they say, even as a little child, you have a question, what is this? And they say, oh, this is a cat. What is that? That's a star. So life shows us that when you ask the right question, actually you do get an answer. And sure enough, for me, my good blessing was Autobiography of a Yogi came. I cannot tell you how thrilled I was when I read about afterlife. That master said, in this body, let's say you like somebody, you say, oh, so many of you have come, today is also my birthday, and so people say, oh, happy birthday, so we are hugging, we are exchanging gifts, we are smiling at each other. So there is a tangible way of expressing love. Master said, but as your heart expands, he said, the spirit has much more love. But he said it is confined by the nervous system and the physical body. And he said, when that is shed, he said the joy becomes exponential. He said thousands and thousands of times more. So now when you come to know of such a thing, it's a bitter-sweet experience, because yes, we have lost somebody who was dear, with whom we could tangibly express love, concern, ask and take care of. But I think we have to, and God gives us time to understand that their body has now changed. And hence their way of communication has changed. The way you see them will have to change. But on the other hand, nothing has changed. If anything, it has become bigger, better and nicer. So Swami used to say that when Master left his body, he said he felt orphaned. Immediately he said. But then he would testify to this. He said, I feel his presence. And then, of course, as we know, he would always say, why do I have to live so long? Agastya said, I live till 91. Does it really have to be like that? And he kicked the bucket sooner, Part of it must have been his eagerness. He would say, I want to go back to my guru. And remember, let's always keep this in mind, that we are here, but we have not come from here. This is a place where we are on a journey, of course, not of our will. We have been, Master said, actually exiled, and we are on a journey to grow and understand, and that's why support each other. But ultimately, we meet up there. For after something as gruesome as the Mahabharata, you read after that, the Pandavas, when they ascended the heaven, the book doesn't end there, it describes the heaven. And guess who they meet there? The Kaurava brothers are sitting over there. And they make the point that, they had many nice qualities too, and they are spending some time. Some of them will return, some stay here, and the real, you might say, kinship happens over there. Like one saint told Master, he said, I used to think finding God is the end of everything. He said, now I understood it is the beginning. Again, honestly, very hard words to fathom, to contemplate. Then you say, what is happening right now? We've been on such a long journey, they say, if that is the beginning, what was this? But I think those things give us hope, and we look forward to that. So anyway, there are wonderful memories of your father, I remember. And just last week, I was in somebody else's astral ascension ceremony, and after about 2.5 hours of satsang about this great soul, the daughter-in-law said, but I don't remember you meeting my father-in-law. I said, no, I met him a few times. So one was in 2009, then it was in 2016, then 2018. She said, just 3 meetings as a doctor-patient, and how do you know so much about him? I said, there was a lot of joy around him. There was a lightness, because, we kept talking, and I said, yeah, that was his nature. He was like that. And she said, when did you meet him? So on one level, it made me realize that actually you don't have to spend so much time. And I was talking to Tushar about your father, and I said, oh, that's true. There were so many qualities that you look back and you think about. Like Jayaji also said a few years after Swami's passing, he said, I'm feeling his presence more. And he was asking some of his fellow Guru Bhais from the earlier days, this was a public talk. He said, I believe many of you are having the same experience. I feel Swami is closer to me. So I have to say, like Asha ji said, if the ending is not happy, it's not the ending. So let's keep that hope in our hearts. So today is, I was saying today's satsang is very, very special. Because it is being given by a very special person. And this toy was sitting on that chair when I came to take my chair. So I said, this is going to be a really different and special satsang. And I have to say, we will describe this in the second half of the satsang, but Prisha brought that pet for me. I have to say, I really feel he's alive, because it is my first pet. I've never had a pet. I came very close to getting a dog in primary school, but it never manifested. So I'll take that home very, very happily, Prisha, and bless it too, and receive its blessings. They say Swami was very considerate. When we come on the spiritual path, you hear of things like non-attachment, renunciation, ego, detachment and all. And you say, my goodness, what's left after all of that? Swami had a heart like perhaps something most people have never experienced. Once a little boy came for a blessing after a satsang, and Swami was blessing everybody. And sometimes you can get very serious about a blessing, and it's all good. Like Jayaji once was having a laugh. He said, people do all sorts of things for salvation. Which was to say that, we don't know what it is, and we go about in all different directions. And this little boy came for a blessing, and after the blessing, he lifted his teddy bear to Swamiji. He said, will you bless him too? And Swami said, why not? And there started this beautiful blessing of the teddy bear. Blessings went in there. And whatever that means, we never know. Speaking about pets, Ramana Maharshi had a disciple. She was a cow. Her name was Lakshmi. Look up this video. If you remind me, I'll share it with you. Now, Lakshmi, it's a very strange story. Somebody said in a past life, when he had moved to a mountain to do austerity, they say that Lakshmi was an old lady who was already staying there, and seeing this 12-year-old boy do austerity for hours a day, she was till that time surviving on little bit food of her own. She started doing double the amount of begging and would bring food, and he was in silence for many years in the beginning, and she would bring him food and he would receive. So this beautiful relationship started between them, and then she passed away. And few years later, somebody brought him a cow. And he looked at that cow, and first he said, we don't need a cow. And he said, no, wait a minute. He said, I need this cow. And to cut the very long story short, he made sure a cow shed was made for it. And that cow shed was made of granite and teak wood. And it was bigger, much more beautiful than his own house or anybody's house, including the temple on that property. And he said, she took care of me. And Lakshmi then, when she died, he said she got liberation. What astonishing story. What an astonishing story. So, it's good to know how little we know sometimes, because then you can keep your heart open for bigger things. Now, I want to share, you can see the TV, little bit I'll share about the expansion happening in our work. And I want to invite you all, actually all the faces I'm seeing are big participants in the work which has, now become big. Yesterday we had a discussion of Pune 2020, that it was in 1920 that a young Paramhans Yogananda ji left his Kolkata home, his father telling him, don't leave, don't leave. And he consoled him. He said, Father, get hold of yourself. I'm not going anywhere. Just going to America. We'll be in touch. I'll meet you. He said, you won't meet me. He said, no, I'll meet you once before you pass away. And then he said that it is important for me to go for the greater teachings of yoga to go out. Now, 2020 is 100 years of that. All of Krishna's soldiers were like Krishna. So if our Guru did some outreach, a small flag, you may find a small flag in your own hands if you look carefully. That, okay, what is the outreach we have to do? Well, maybe you have to smile. Maybe Like today somebody was saying, by the way, we had a wonderful discipleship. I don't see Suvarna ji. Maybe it was a long day for her. But Blazy, Xenia and Suvarna ji brought 2 batches of about 15 students who took discipleship. Really beautiful people. I said, you haven't taken discipleship and there's so much grace. One was an advocate and she's saying, I'm feeling so much peace and calm in the courtrooms. There was one gentleman, he said, I was so stressful earlier with work, but now all work is ease for me. There was a young student sitting here. He said, I pray to Yogananda ji before my exams and I'm getting the questions which I have read. And I said that in such simple, practical, tangible ways, if people are receiving the benefits, you can see that the grace is there. On the other hand, I do feel that there is a special flow of grace, which is slightly hard to understand. You say, well, grace is the same all the time, and it is true. But once in a while, like Jyotish ji had said when Swami had left his body, he said in the last few years of his life and soon after his passing, there was a tremendous flow of things that were happening. And he said those who meditate on that flow will find it's like the river is always flowing, but certain parts are flowing faster. So if you get there, you go faster, and then you later realize it was not your effort, it was a lot of grace over there. And likewise, I began to feel that many of us didn't meet Swamiji, or even if we were with him, of course, you didn't know when he's going to leave his body, or maybe we were not involved directly with his work. But the last 10 years of his life, we all would agree, if you read, that there was a lot happening through him, around him, and it was involving and uplifting people. We are recording this, but I'll still say it in different words. That I do feel there is a grace around what is happening in Ananda right now. Call it a lot of Swamiji's students, disciples have matured to that point. Asha ji, Jaya ji, Jyotish and Devi ji, Gyan Dev ji. I mean, you name it and the list is long. But what God is doing through them, asking to happen through them is enormous. And why am I saying this? I came from Delhi 2 weeks ago and we were planning 2020 on an international level and then on a national level. Then our homework was go to each city and see what is trying to happen there. So we did a whiteboard exercise and we'll do many more. And you're welcome, each of you, welcome to that. And Jyotish ji was joking. He said, when I came on the path, Aditya, I thought that I'm in control of my life and I want a little bit more control. And that's a very good thing. And he said, but I soon realized that actually my life is being run by a horse. And that horse was Kriyananda. And he was carrying us all in a chariot. And we were going in a good direction. But he said, I soon realized that it is much more faster than what I could have done. And it's fun. Let's get on the chariot. And he said, now I feel that I'm strapped to the back of a wild elephant. Of late I've been feeling that. And then I said to him, so thank God you are strapped to it. Because that elephant is the worldwide work that now Master and Swamiji and all great souls who've gone are trying to do. Whenever difficulty arises, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, to that degree virtue also descends in very, very tangible ways. So if we are seeing difficulty, it's good to acknowledge it, understand it, but then what's the solution? So the Masters are providing something and a lot of good things are happening. We'll see a video of something Swami Kriyananda ji tried to do in 1960, 61, 62. When he came to India, you'll remember he was in India for 4 years, 58 to 62. And he realized that Kolkata was on one side, it's beautiful, Master's home, relics and things were there. But he said the real work would happen through a major city, and at that time it was Delhi. Today also there is our capital. And he said, I want to do something, I want to make a temple, I want to make a yoga institute over there. And unfortunately, his move was misinterpreted as self-promotion and he was expelled from SRF. Quite the opposite, talk of scales of duality. The great work he wanted to do turned into no work. He said he barely made it through those few years and then started Ananda and gained momentum once again to present in very practical ways Master's teachings. Now, of late, you'll see in this video, which is quite explanatory, a piece of land has come in Mumbai, belongs to a charitable trust, which is now trying to give it to us in the heart of the city in Greater Kailash. And people are talking about a yoga institute. A temple is already there, which is very well respected by people. And Neem Karoli Baba had told Swamiji many years ago, later when they met after 1962, he said, "Oh, don't be disheartened about the Guru Seva you were trying to do in Delhi. One day you will make a temple of your Guru in Delhi." And Swami said that he took that blessing, and later people would tell him that Neem Karoli Baba had a reputation that his word was never falsified. It was only a matter of time. And it happens, to say when a saint says something, Master said that word is binding on the universe. So let's keep this in our prayers. Of course, later on the discussion, not in this satsang, we will talk about how we can individually empower ourselves in this greater grace and how we can serve in Pune, around Pune, and such. But for now, I want us to watch this beautiful video and do that discussion. Then later, when we are having prasad, we can do the discussions.